Alright, here's the deal. I got this monster of a video cooking in the back, and it's looking like it's not going to be done for at least another couple of months. So I've decided to bang out another installment of obscure games. That's right, we're back. As the annual wallet deleting sale is currently happening on Steam, and I know at least 5 of you have received that godforsaken notification, gone to the homepage, only to go meh after 2 minutes of browsing. Well, let me show you what they've got at the back. The depths, if you will. And maybe you'll find your next hyperfixation for the week, or at least lead you down the road to something worth playing. Now, we're not working with the cream of the crop here. I tend to keep things strictly indie, and, well, obscure. But if you're used to such games, you'll feel right at home. And if not, well, stick around. It's often in the lesser known that you find things worth your time. Also, I understand that I'm a little late with my contribution to the Steam Summer Sale recommendations. But I'm not here to tell you that there's a 20% discount on Pooh Brown Filter 2, Art Style Ruined Edition. So, without further ado, let's ride into the first game. Chambers is a comedic RPG set in what it calls the Weird Wild West, which is perfectly fitting as I have no idea what is going on. Hey, that's what I'm saying. Now, some of you may already know this, but this game was graced upon us by the same developer of Golden Light, which yes, I have heard of. It is in my Steam library, but I've yet to play it. This though, I was a little hesitant to purchase, as after reading there was a fair bit of jank. And well, there is, but holy moly am I glad I got it, as this game goes unreasonably hard. Your wife has been stolen. The Reds are back and are wreaking havoc against the Blues. Wait. The world of the Weird Wild West is torn apart by a war for booze, but your only mission is to find that coffin. Okay, I've introduced the story, but I'm not going to go through it piece by piece, as that's kind of the point of the game. And experiencing the batshit dialogue for the first time was a big part of the enjoyment. And no, not literally the dialogue about batshit. There's quite a bit I think this game does really well. There's also some things I think could be worked on a little more. But let's start with the good. First off, the music is sublime, and honestly fits the game incredibly well. Not just because a lot of the tracks are very over-the-top Western themed, but some lean more into a trippy and almost psychedelic style, and I think that really complements the world for which they were created. Some are also genuinely really well made pieces of music. So hats off to the creators of the soundtrack. On the theme of sound, the sound design, in particular the guns, are also incredibly well made. Now, I don't know if these were made by the devs or were bought assets, but my god, every time I land a hit on some poor bastard, I feel like I'm in a Tarantino movie.
Sure that's him?
Yeah.
Yes, what?
Yes, I'm sure that's Ellis Brittle.
These two things, paired with the art style, which is also fantastic, and is akin to Golden Light, but a bit more toned down in terms of craziness, makes for this kind of twisted Western power fantasy, where your only limit is how many red guys there are to supply you with guns, both for killing and for monetary gain. Another thing I was pleasantly surprised by is the amount of depth. Sure, there's nothing too crazy, but here's some notable features. There are a good amount of weapons and gear, and upgrades for those weapons and gear. You can hire people to accompany you in your legally questionable doings, or ask them to play a card game. In the small town in which these people reside, there is a missions board where you can accept tasks, usually killing someone or something for a reward. Completing said missions will increase your reputation with the locals. There are also some light survival mechanics, in the form of hunger. You won't directly die if you don't eat, but you might as a result of the side effects, though you'll want to keep stocked on food anyway for healing. As you may have seen in the introductory hype edit, you possess the ability to catch bullets out of the air, then fire them back with your hand. Of course, only if you're wearing gloves. And lastly, the horses go crazy. There's probably some stuff I missed, but you should really go and experience it for yourself. And most of the stuff I mentioned is optional from the main story. Sure, you still need to buy food from time to time for healing, and maybe some ammo here and there. But after I discovered the world is free to roam, I just went around killing guys and selling guns for like a good hour. Now, a controversial feature that I saw a few people moaning about in the reviews is the weapon durability. But honestly, I don't mind it. Hell, I actually kinda like the fact that you have to scavenge for guns. Sure, it might be slightly annoying if you spend $5 grand on a weapon and it breaks, but you can always repair it. And so far, the weapons I found on enemies have been more than powerful enough. The cost of repairing gear could be reduced slightly, so there's a little less grind to maintain gear, but overall, the weapon durability isn't that bad. Another minor thing I think needs to be changed is the roll feature being bound to the same button as sprint. Not the biggest issue, but I find myself rolling sometimes when I wanted to sprint, so a separate button for this might be nice. Now, is Chambers perfect? No. Like I said at the start, there is some jank. Some of it's charming, some of it's not. But it is still in early access, and with a bit of tweaking, I think it could be even better than it is now, which already is a very fun game. And if it looks like something you'd enjoy, I encourage you to check it out. It for sure deserves some more attention. Now, from the weird Wild West to the deepest depths of space, we search for evidence of life. Terrene, an evidence of life game, is one that I got really excited about when I first saw it, and I was pleasantly surprised when playing it that it lived up to, if not exceeded, my expectations. And I have to thank this person and their beast of a comment for recommending it to me. Now, it's not the most complex game, it actually leans more into the arcade side of things, but for what it's worth, which is not a lot, it really is very good. It is a game about exploring, mining minerals, upgrading your stats, and repeating the process. If I had to draw a comparison, it's like a much more simple version of the game Starbound, which personally I really enjoyed. It even has the same star map feature, with a near infinite amount of planets to explore. Now, are these planets very big? Well, no, not really. But they don't need to be. Like I said, it's simple, but it executes the mechanics it does have very well. You play as a clone, set out on the Evidence of Life project, to explore and discover the world of Terrene. Now, from what I can gather, the game is based off the developer's previous game, Evidence of Life, but with more fleshed out graphics, mechanics, and whatnot. And after the starting message, that's it, you're playing the game. There's not really a formal tutorial, aside from the few starting missions. But of course, I completely missed those and didn't figure out where the missions menu was until 25 minutes into the game. Now, as you can see, you don't start on a planet, but rather orbiting above one. So let's hop in the ship and fly down. This was honestly a pleasant surprise. While the ship controls can be a little jank at times, I wasn't even expecting planet traversal to carry out like this, as it's not shown in the trailer. Hell, Starbound doesn't even have this, and I was expecting it to draw parallel and just have you teleported down to the world below. Another thing I love about this game is how chaotic it can be sometimes. As soon as you fly out to the starting planet, you will immediately be attacked by a small swarm of flying creatures. Nothing too crazy, but the planets have more prepared, and my first landing went like this. After setting foot, we killed our first few enemies. Then, not even a few meters from the ship, I was violently struck with a city-destroying sized meteor.
What the fuck?
Then we mined our first few pieces of valuable ore, only when heading back to the ship, have the hole we dug out spring forth an onslaught of devilish alien life.
What the fuck is on?
The ship damn near gets destroyed, so we set down far away from all of that, only to discover that the pretty firefly things are actually very harmful.
Like invincible. Ow.
Now, you may be wondering who we was in this little adventure. Well, the game is local co-op, with one other person. They get to play as the cybernetic dog, that can mine, shoot, and is completely invincible. but that's about it. There are upgrades for the dog, but they don't add a great deal. Now, I know a lot of people may not play this game local co-op, but I'm a big fan of games that have this feature, and it would have been nice to see it a little more fleshed out, and or had support for more players. Obviously though, this isn't the main draw of the game, and I'm still really enjoying it despite this. Now, I haven't played a great deal of this game, just enough to get a feel for the main loop, but the grind for new upgrades, tools, and completing missions I thought was actually pretty fun. You basically have 4 main resources: coal, diamond, gold, and biomass. Coal is very common, and its main use is for repairs. How you repair something with coal, I have no idea, just roll with it. Gold and diamond are rarer, and are used to upgrade yourself, your dog, and buy various tools, consumables, and ammo. The main use for biomass is to feed the creation of clones. You don't see this happen, it's more of a lore thing, and what it means in terms of gameplay is that you just complete the planet. You don't have to complete a planet in order to travel to a new one, however. You can set course as soon as you find and gather some dyslexia. Dyslexia? As soon as you gather some dyslexia, you can go to any of the nearby planets. The further away the planet is, then the more dyslexia it'll cost. Now, the last thing I should mention are the monolithic structures you'll find, known as labyrinths, and the different types of bosses. As for bosses, I'll keep things brief, as discovering these things for the first time was very fun, if not a bit terrifying. This horrific creature is a mini-boss. Yes, mini. These can be found just sitting there on the surface of a planet. Now, aside from heart bosses, the rest, Sky, Atom, and Glitch, are summoned. I won't tell you how, just know if you go poking around with things labelled with an exclamation mark, you might want to prepare for a fight. Labyrinths, on the other hand, are a little more chill. They're akin to Terraria's dungeon, though obviously a lot more simple. And at the end, there's a mini-boss and some loot. There was this other mega structure that I found, which I think was another type of labyrinth, but I couldn't get past the first room, as this thing was locked up tight, and seemed to have a constant supply of enemies to throw at me. All in all, Terrene is an amazingly well-crafted game, and a true hidden gem. I mean, come on, 30 reviews is criminal, and the price, even while not on sale, is very much worth it. So if this at all tickles your fancy, I would highly recommend you give it a go. I can personally see myself sinking a good deal more hours into this game. Now, from one deep region of space to another, it's time to raid the galactic treasury. Desecrators is a 6 degrees of freedom shooter inspired by those of the 90s, with the visual style to go along with it. Now, I'd actually never played a shooter like this, so this being my introduction to the genre, I have to say, it's pretty good. Sure, it's nothing revolutionary. How I was expecting it to play was pretty much how it did in practice. But was it fun? Hell yeah. First off, the sound design in this game is fantastic. All the weapons sound incredibly punchy. You best believe that when you unleash something that sounds like this, onto whatever may be coming around the corner, there's not going to be a lot left when you're done. The ambience and music is also spot on. I appreciate when a game holds back on music when not much is going on, and lets the ambience of the place you're exploring take over. Then, as soon as there's any action, the combat music feels all the more impactful. It's also somewhat of an indicator as to when you're imminently about to get fired upon from some unknown angle. Now, it doesn't say this on the Steam page, but the gameplay loop is that of a roguelite. If you fail a mission, all upgrades, weapons you found, and map progress is reset. Your goal is to reach the galactic treasury, and defeat the anomaly contained within. There are 8 missions, or raids as they're called, leading up to this, and each one you get a choice of which mission type you want to do, with one usually being a higher difficulty. Now, as for the missions, well, unfortunately, it's one of the areas where the game lacked for me. There's only 2 mission types, collection and meltdown. One, you have to collect gold cubes, and the other, you have to activate switches. On top of this, the levels are procedurally generated, where sometimes there's some pretty cool looking areas, but for the most part, the environments get kind of boring. I do like the style though. All the textures look well made, and everything fits together nicely, and definitely achieves that retro look. In some of the places even reminded me of the early Halo games. Another thing I have to praise it for is the enemy AI. It mentions this as a feature, saying the AI is highly reactive, and for the most part, it is. Most enemies I found wouldn't even round a corner to chase after me after I engaged, rather keeping their advantageous position amongst the rest of the group. I know this may not sound reactive, but I thought it was quite impressive, considering enemies in other shooters will just beeline straight for you, regardless whether or not it makes it easy for you to kill them. And some of the more elite enemies in this game have unique AI that sometimes is pretty terrifying. One last thing, I also liked how responsive the explosions felt. Of course, most of them don't damage you, unless it's an enemy projectile. But pretty much all explosions have some sort of impact on your ship, causing it to get knocked around accordingly. Which I never had a problem with, but I could see it influencing fights, since some of the large enemies go off like a nuke when they die. Now, it might have just been me not used to this kind of shooter, but it was pretty damn difficult. Even on the default settings, I failed over and over to reach the end mission, and only did after bumping down the difficulty. But it does have a fair few difficulty options, so you can tune it to however you like. Also, depending on how you are with games like this, there's a chance that motion sickness could be an issue, because, well, either this isn't going to bother you at all, or you're going to take one look at it and start to feel ill. Probably should have mentioned this at the start, but whatever, we're here now. To finish, I would say that Desecrators, despite it needing some tweaks, is pretty damn fun, and as a fairly new release, deserves some more attention. And if, like me, you've never played a 6 Degrees of Freedom shooter, I encourage you to give it a go. Lastly, after being let out of prison, we are sent on a suicide mission to find the world's only source of power. Schism is a top-down action roguelike akin to the top dogs of the genre, but with it leaning less into the simplistic meta-progression style of most in its category, and rather into the realm of the complex permadeath brutality of traditional roguelikes. And I'm all for it. I enjoy both sides of the roguelike/roguelite genres, and to play a game that incorporates elements from both sides is very enjoyable. This game is also oozing with style. I'm not sure what you call this, but Pizza Tower did something similar, and I love the art in both of these games. Now, there's a lot of stuff packed into this game, from stats to Risk of Rain style relics to a whole roster of deities to pray to, so naturally I can't possibly cover everything. It takes a bit of getting used to, and can be a little overwhelming, although it helps that pretty much everything can be hovered over to see what it does. But it's one of those games where once you push past the initial stage of figuring things out, it starts to open up and becomes very fun very quick. My first run went like this. I chose the Toxic God, who gave me 3 random permanent diseases and would give me more for every 3 favor. The upside was gaining faith and experience per disease, and from dealing poison damage, which coincidentally there was an item that let me deal said damage in the next room. Then, after gaining some favor, I received an item that made enemies killed by poison spawn forth a swarm of flies. Towards the end of the run, I was this half-blind, utterly disease-ridden monstrosity swarmed by flies and zombies. But damn, could I clear a room fast. Though eventually I succumbed to the mutative nature of the Toxic God, and received an unavoidable, lethal dose of poison myself, as a result of one of my many diseases. The next run I did, I chose the God of Love, who made me the centre of attention for a small militia of zombies. Though zombies, being the soft, mushy creatures that they are, crumbled on the second boss, leaving me for dead. Though I have yet to experience a build that is truly game-breaking, I can imagine that if you play your cards right, it's possible to rig this game to high hell. Whether or not this happens, however, is somewhat down to your own skill. You see, this game has a feature where you can completely nullify the damage of a bullet, so long as you switch to its corresponding colour, and nailing the timing and reflexes takes a fair bit of practice. Another staple of this game are the goofy characters that you meet on your runs. They will usually offer you some kind of service, with dialogue that fits the wacky nature of the game, be it something good or something less than ideal. But all in all, Schism is an excellently well-crafted roguelite, and for sure falls into the category of games that will suck you into playing it, and only it, for a good week or so. Thank you all so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my brother for making the pixel art intros for all the games. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. I might make another one of these in the near future, though it depends if I find some games that interest me. But if you have any recommendations, do leave a comment and I'll take a look. And as I mentioned, I have a pretty big project currently in the works, so it may be that I keep working on that for the time being. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
What the hell? I'm just falling. I'm falling like this. I can't do jetpack. I can't jetpack. I can't. My jetpack's not working anymore. My jetpack's not working. Oh my god. Just blissfully loop.